Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7. We're at number 1556 in terms of episodes, and hey, tonight is officially the premiere of Star Wars Resistance. Now, you know what's hysterical about this in a way? Is that I ain't gonna be around for it. As it turns out, I'm actually recording these episodes in advance because I'm going to be away with the family because it's an annual Columbus Day thing, basically Columbus Day weekend situation, and it's also what we like to call birthday row here in the house, where Quizmaster Joe had his birthday earlier a couple of weeks ago, and Scorekeeper Declan had his birthday on October 5th. My birthday is tomorrow, October 8th. And my sister-in-law's birthday is October 7th, and yeah, they all just it all stacks into one crazy thing. So we're getting away for one last final time in the outdoors before we start hunkering down for the winter here in the Northeast. Anyway, that's all stuff that's whatever. You want to hear about Star Wars Resistance, or at least why it's at all of interest to you. And so, that being said, the reason why I'm mentioning it is because I'm not actually going to talk about the premiere until Tuesday, October 9th, actually. So we'll get into it, and we'll have had time to dig in, and I'm sure we will have a Resistance Recon episode to supplement everything about the season premiere and the series premiere of Resistance 2. Now, a couple things I want to highlight from the interviews that took place with the cast and crew of Star Wars Resistance. First of all, Christopher Sean, who plays Kaz Ziono, has said that they're going to open up doors in Star Wars lore. And I think this is a really important sentiment because right now, when you think about it, we don't know a heck of a lot about the First Order, right? I mean, we know that there's this great military might. We know that it is a remnant of the Empire that escaped into the unknown regions and rebuilt itself and became more savage and more difficult to deal with, and was taken over by Supreme Leader Snoke and all that stuff, and that there's, no official First Order capital. It just was on the Supremacy as a mobile capital, but now, of course, the Supremacy is gone. And, we learned some stuff in the Phasma novel, maybe a bit about the training methods and stuff that we learned about Finn in, say, Before the Awakening, before, those 6 months before he got into The Force Awakens, and we saw what all happened there. But we don't really know a heck of a lot about the First Order at all. And so the idea of opening new doors in Star Wars lore, well, I have to say that learning more about the First Order probably has to be right at the top of the list. The First Order has been in development for a number of years. In fact, you could say, in a way, that it's about the same 6 years that the Resistance has been in existence, too. And it's more the funding than anything else, and just trying to start getting supplies together before a real First Order was in the offing. I guess it raises the question of when Supreme Leader Snoke actually took over the First Order, but it seems like it might have been, within that time frame, maybe. I don't know, so maybe we're going to learn more about that whole situation too. Either way, I think this is going to be the first time that we get a really extended look at the First Order and possibly learn more about its origins, its intentions, and some other very interesting information about its development. And the other thing I want to point out is that the development cycle on this is really fascinating, because in the interviews, multiple people have said that they were cast in this show more than a year ago, or at least that they had to keep the secret of their casting for more than a year. So that being the case, we started finding out about it in the summertime this year, which means that the summertime last year was about more or less when they were cast, although Christopher Sean has said it was a year and a half. So he even put it back farther. So that would be like the beginning of 2017 that he was first cast in it, which means that it had to be in development much further back from that. Would you say, a year in development? I think that's a reasonable estimate. So we're talking about the beginning of 2016, which means that we're already way back into the Star Wars Rebels timeline, right? They're working on Star Wars Rebels, that would have been, oh my goodness, season 2? Yeah, and that's when they were already talking about Star Wars Resistance and getting it in the works. So this gives you a really interesting glimpse into how far ahead Lucasfilm is actually planning the things that come out. I mean, yeah, we know that it's, 3 years in development for a movie, for example, or, 2 years sometimes in the case of The Last Jedi or Episode 9, but not even, because Rian Johnson was at work on Episode 8 even while Episode 7 was still in post-production. So yeah, thankfully, because it is, switching directors, that gives them more time to work on the movies. So that insight, to know that that was the case, was pretty remarkable, especially when you consider that Dave Filoni posted something on social media at the end of the Rebels run about, just thanks for this great team, and now we begin again. And you read that and part of you thinks, oh man, this is when they're going to start developing a new series. And no, actually what that means is that they've got another series that's about to kick off, unless what he's really saying is that they are about to begin on the development of a series beyond Star Wars Resistance, whatever the next thing is going to be, which would be also a rather remarkable feat to consider as well. And in that case, what is that going to be? Where is it going to take place? And, are they finding out a little bit about what Rian Johnson has in mind for his trilogy, or what Benioff and Weiss have in mind about their series, that they might consider developing content around those particular, bits of story, those particular story arcs, the mythology that's getting developed? Well, that seems like a pretty reasonable and logical situation, because they've done one cartoon about the prequel era, one cartoon about the OT era, now they're working on a cartoon about the sequel era. So yeah, where do you go next? I think you got to go to one of those major story arc situations for your next animation consideration. At least that's my take on it. I'd love to hear what you think the next Star Wars animation thing is going to be after Star Wars Resistance, so drop me a comment wherever you happen to be catching this episode. And that is going to do it for today. Tomorrow's episode, we will, even though Resistance will have already premiered, like I said, this, episode and the next one for the October 8th episode will be recorded in advance of when Resistance premieres, so I'll actually be mining the databank on StarWars.com for more interesting and intriguing information to share with you about Star Wars Resistance and the characters and situations involved there. For now, though, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you're not supporting me on Patreon, I hope you'll consider that too. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.